Give it up once again for that tremendous choir. They're very special, and they demonstrate why we gather here tonight. It's all about the kids. Everything we're focused on is all about the kids. We want these kids to get the best education possible, to have the best opportunities possible. We must find ways to achieve that this year. It's all about the kids. But for those kids, there is a standard. It's a standard that's existed for a long time. And it's this: Mom and Dad are in charge. Doesn't matter when you live, where you live, city, county, country, or whatever, Mom and Dad are in charge of their kids. No one can love a child like a parent can. No one knows a child like a parent does. No one can know more about what needs to be done to help that child succeed than their parent. Our goal is to ensure that parents will be involved in the direction of the most important thing we can work on, and that's the future of these children. Now, obviously, you know the general topic that we're here to talk about, and that's to talk about school choice. But let me start this way so you can understand my perspective. I'm a very big supporter of public schools. I attended public schools my entire life. If you know where Longview is, I went to elementary school in Longview. In Duncanville is a suburb of Dallas. I went to junior high and high school in Duncanville. Public school the whole way. Loved it so much, if I could do it all over again, I would not change it at all. Public schools were the right schools for me. And I got to tell you, many of our public schools are outstanding and doing an excellent job for the state. As we gather in Giddings tonight, Texas ranks #1 in the United States for the most national blue ribbon schools of any state in the entire country. We have one of the highest high school graduation rates in the entire country. And as you can applaud that. And as your governor, I have authorized more funding for public education than any governor in the history of Texas, and more funding for teacher pay raises than any governor in the history of the state of Texas. Per pupil funding is at an all-time high. In this session that we're working on right now, we're adding billions of more dollars for public education and more teacher pay raises. We support our public schools here in the great state of Texas, period. But all that said, y'all know something that applies whether it be to schools or anything in life. More money does not always lead to better results. It's just a fact. The fact is, like when I grew up in Longview and Duncanville, we were taught the basics: reading, writing, math, and science, things like that. But perhaps more important than that, we were taught about how inspiring it was the way that the United States of America was founded, as a way that we stand apart from other countries in the world, because it's America that is the beacon of liberty and opportunity in this world. And the way that we grew up, is what we both saw and heard and did tonight. We started with the Pledge of Allegiance. You heard the first speaker, Jim, talk to you about how school begins with the Pledge of Allegiance. And that's the way it should be, because we honor the country that has led us to great success. But that does not apply everywhere across the state. I was at an event like this in Amarillo, Texas, and the headmaster of the school there began by telling why she was there in Amarillo and had left a public school in the Dallas area. She was frustrated in the Dallas area that they did not begin their public school by saying a pledge of allegiance to the United States flag or to the Texas flag. And she was so overjoyed to be back into a school setting where they honor the country that is the greatest country in the history of the world. In a complete different school setting, down in Conroe by Houston, there was a principal of a private elementary school who herself had been a teacher in a public school before that. And there were various different reasons because of her experience at that public school that she wanted to leave and go to the private school that she was at when I met her. But she said the straw that broke the camel's back is when she saw a history teacher in the public school teaching students to disrespect the flag of the United States of America. Let me tell you something. We are not going to use your taxpayer dollars to teach our kids to hate the United States of America. If we had to narrow down to just one topic about what we're going to teach our kids to ensure that America will remain the greatest country, it should be this one topic, and that is educate kids why and how 13 colonies came into becoming the most powerful, the mightiest, and the best country in the history of the entire world. That is what our kids need to be learning in the classroom. Well, there's all different kinds of issues that parents face, that their kids face. In the Denton area last night, I was talking to a mom, and she said she has 3 kids. She said the public school was the right for one child, a private school was right for the second child, but homeschooling was right for the third child. And the same school would not have been right for the other kids in her own family. That same situation exists across the state where parents are just trying to find the right pathway for their child. There was a mom like that in Conroe, Texas, and this mom had a child that had its own unique needs. And the mom talked to the superintendent of the school district there about trying to step up and meet those needs. And they were incapable of doing so, and the mother was kind of helpless and hopeless. She had no other avenue to choose to go down because she had been abandoned by the school who would not address her child's unique needs. And then came along COVID. COVID seemed to change a lot in the world, but maybe it changed the education setting as much as anything else. I don't know what happened around here. I know what happened in large cities across the state. Many kids were forced to learn from home, and parents grew angry watching their children fall behind. I issued an executive order saying that when kids return to school that next fall, that schools could not mandate masks because I said mom and dad are in charge of choosing whether or not their child will or will not have to wear a mask. Despite that executive order that has the effect of law, school districts across the state sued me, and we're still in court today on whether or not that school district has the power to trump my executive order and force a child to wear a mask. But what seemed to be unearthed the most during the time of COVID is parents began to see what kids were being taught in school. And here it was way different from what was taught when you and I were in school. It's this stuff called wokeism, this sexualization of young children, and the radical woke agenda that is just wrong for schools to be pushing that onto our kids. Our schools are for education, not indoctrination. So one thing we have to do, we have to reform curriculum. We got to get kids back to the basics of learning. And we must empower parents along the way. Parents deserve access to curriculum, to school libraries, to what their children are being taught. And we will accomplish that with my Parental Bill of Rights this session. And parents also deserve education freedom to be able to pick the school that's best for their child. And the way to do that is with state-based school choice that's funded through education savings accounts. We've seen this work extraordinarily well in other states. And in a way, we've also seen it already work in the state of Texas. Because during the time of COVID, I established these education savings accounts for special needs students. And it worked so well that the legislature came back in and turned it into law, and now it's working so well they want to add even more funding to it. So what we're seeking to do is to ensure that all parents in the state of Texas will have access to that very same education savings account so that every parent will have the ability to choose the school that's best for their child. Parents matter. Now listen, I know that sometimes when new things arise, people get concerned. They raise questions, which is fair to do. But importantly, there are answers to all the questions and concerns that are raised. The first one, kind of the most common thing you hear is that, well, listen, if we have school choice, it's going to defund our public schools and destroy our public schools as we know them, and it will end high school football in Texas. So we've seen how these arguments or contentions are not true. One way that we've seen it is that more than half the states in the United States of America, they already have some form of school choice. And in those states, it has not defunded schools or affected their football programs. But we've even seen it away here in Texas. About 25 years ago, Texas began with the passage of creating charter schools in Texas. When that issue came up, the same arguments made today were made 25 years ago. When charter schools came up, giving parents the ability to send their child to a charter school, people said, listen, this is going to destroy public schools. It's going to defund public schools. And it will destroy football in Texas. All the same arguments that are made today were made 25 years ago. And let me tell you how that's worked out. Since I've been your governor, in just the past 8 years, the number of students attending charter schools has almost doubled. So it's increased a lot. But go back to what I told you earlier. During that same time, over the same 8 years that the students attending charter schools has almost doubled, we have increased funding for public education to more than it's ever been. We've increased teacher pay raises more than ever before, and per student funding in our public schools is higher than it's ever been. So the increase in charter school attendance has done nothing to defund or to destroy public schools in Texas. So to be perfectly clear about the way this program would work, all public schools will continue to be fully funded for every student in those public schools. Another thing that's very important, success in other states have made the case for school choice. Let me give you just one of what could be many examples. In Florida, they began using school choice for students of low-income families back around the 2002 time period. In the 20 years since it began, those students went from being ranked by nationalized tests as one of the worst performing in the country to now some of the best students in America. And while they were doing it, not only did the schools that those kids went to improve, but also the public schools they came from improved. Education across the board improved in Florida after they passed school choice. The same thing would apply here. School choice improves schools. It does not set them back. Another issue is raised about things like accountability. Of course there's accountability. But frankly, the biggest kind of accountability that exists is parental choice. If parents take their child and go to a school and do not like that school, they can leave it and go to another school that is a better fit for their child. That's what this is all about. And then there's an argument that's been made that has absolutely no facts about it whatsoever. It goes like this, and that is that if school choice is allowed, and there may be some communities like Giddings where there may not be a genuine school choice option that would arise. Some people say, well, they're going to be taking your property tax money here and be giving it to some school over in Austin, Texas, or wherever. That's completely false, completely untrue, because no money is taken away from any school that no kids are leaving. And so no money will be leaving rural Texas at all, period. Schools in rural Texas will continue to be fully funded the same way they are now, regardless of what happens with school choice. I'll add this. Plans like this are extremely popular right here in the state of Texas. If you are Republican, Democrat, or Independent, large majorities of each of those three categories support school choice. If you're Black, White, Hispanic, or Asian American, large majorities of those categories support school choice. If you live in urban Texas or suburban Texas or in rural Texas, large majorities of each of those three categories support school choice. Everyone in every region of the state of Texas supports school choice. The time for school choice in Texas is now. We must get that done this session. So the reason why we're here tonight is not to give you a bunch of speeches. The reason why we're here tonight is to enlist your involvement. Because here's the deal. If you're attending this, you have a role to play in this process. Things like this do not happen just because a governor of a state wants them to happen. It happens because the people of the state want it to happen. We know the people of our state want this to happen, but here's where it gets complicated. Today and yesterday, tomorrow and the next day, and every week after this week, there are people who get paid a lot of money. They're called lobbyists. And they are calling and talking to every state representative, every state senator, saying, do not support this school choice plan because it will destroy our schools, and they'll go through every argument that I've been through tonight. And they hire additional people, believe it or not, using your taxpayer dollars to advocate against giving parents more power and more choice for their own children. But you know what? None of those lobbyists live in Giddings, Texas. None of those lobbyists vote in Giddings, Texas. You do. Your voice matters. Your vote matters more than any lobbyist in the state of Texas. So what we are enlisting you to do is for you to stand up just for parental empowerment and take 5 minutes out of your time and make a phone call to a state representative, to a state senator, and lodge your support for school choice in the state of Texas. And let me tell you the bigger picture of what we're seeking to achieve. And that is, Texas, when it comes to Texas, we believe in one thing. We believe in being number one. When I became governor, I set as our goal for Texas to be number one for jobs in the economy. This past year, Texas added far more new jobs than any other state in the United States of America. Texas has the fastest, most robust growing economy of any state in America. When I gave my first State of the State address back in 2015, I told the audience at the time that Texas was lagging behind other states as it concerned what are called Tier 1 research universities. I said, well, Texas should be number one. And we passed the laws that needed to be passed to put Texas on a pathway to be number one. And as we gather in Giddings, Texas ranks number one for Tier 1 research universities in the United States of America. So what is our aspiration for education? What's our aspiration for these kids who sang to us tonight? It should be nothing less than being number one. They deserve the best education that's possible in the United States of America. And the reason why I'm advancing school choice is because it is one of the elements along the pathway to make Texas number one for educating our kids. But again, the reason I'm here is because I cannot do this alone. Let me put it in this context. As a lot of you may know, but maybe not everybody, the reason why I am in a wheelchair is because when I was 26 years old, I was living in Houston, Texas at the time, and I went out for a jog. And when I went out for a jog that day, a big tree about twice as high as the roof in this room crashed down onto my back, fractured my vertebrae and my spinal cord, leaving me immediately and permanently paralyzed for the rest of my life. I faced an enormous challenge. I could have stayed in bed. I could have given up and quit. I could have not gone back to work, but I chose not to. Instead, what I chose to do was to apply this lesson, and that is our lives are not defined by our challenges. Instead, we define our lives by the way that we respond to our challenges. And it was after that I went on to become the longest-serving Attorney General and now the governor of the greatest state in the United States of America. The deal here, though, is this challenge that we're facing about making education in Texas number one is far bigger than just myself. I can get myself out of bed and go to work. What I need now is all of you. This challenge is the size of Texas, and we are all in this together, because if we succeed at this, everybody in the state is going to succeed. So what I need you to do is to stand with me, to fight with me every step of the way, so that we will define the future of our state with parental empowerment, putting our kids on the pathway to being the best educated kids in the United States of America. So thank you all, and God bless you all. And at this time, I want to present a proclamation to the principal for recognition. This is from the state of Texas, to Emmanuel Lutheran School in honor of hosting Parent Empowerment Night from the Governor, Greg Abbott. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Sure. Thank you all. God bless you all. God bless the great state of Texas.